My name's Steve Worswick, and as was kindly introduced, I'm the author, creator, developer, and everything else behind the Kooky chatbot, which is widely regarded as being the world's most human-like conversational AI. So in today's talk, I'm just going to introduce Kooky, show the kind of challenges I have to face, sort of people that talk to her, and a little bit of history about how I got into it in the first place. Now, I don't plan on going through what is a chatbot. You know, we're all here. We all know what a chatbot is. The only difference between Kooky and a regular chatbot is that Kooky is more like open domain conversational AI, whereas most chatbots have a specific task, like to order pizza or train tickets or book a table at a restaurant. Kooky is more like the science fiction type chatbot where you can talk to it about anything and everything like that. So yeah, kind of how I got into it was, I've always been fascinated by chatbots from a very early age. Growing up on TV shows such as Star Wars and Knight Rider with the talking car, it's fascinating as a young child to watch this kind of thing. But obviously, when I was younger, we didn't have the technology, the processing power to create anything like that. So, it just kind of became something I kind of forgot about over the years. Now, just for fun, as a bit of a hobby, I also made like dance music, techno music. And there's an example of one of the CDs I was featured on there, which is Scottish Clubland 3, which I'm sure is in all your music collections. And if not, why not? But yeah, it's all the kind of boom, boom, boom type noise. And I became, interested back into chatbots was when I saw one of the fellow producers. He had a chatbot on his website, and I thought, well, this is really cool. I want to get back into this. And I had a look around the internet and I found a chatbot called Alice. And I was talking to it for a while and I was hooked. So I thought, right, I'm going to create one of these for my own website. And I created one just in like the shape of a teddy bear. And what I found, and I put it on the website, but I found that more people were coming to the website to talk to the chatbot than were to actually listen to the music. And so I kind of took that as a bit of a hint, and I thought, right, I'll just concentrate purely on the chatbot. And it kind of, about maybe 10, 20 people a day were talking to this thing. And then it was seen by a large games company called Mousebreaker. And they really loved it. And they wanted to put a version of it on their website back in 2005. And, it kind of blew up from there. Instead of getting 20 visitors a day, I was suddenly getting 2,000. And it was incredible. And I kind of developed it over the years. And I started entering competitions online in 2010. And it did quite well. Most of the time it was coming in like the top 3. And most of his competitions are kind of based on every bot is asked, say, like 20 questions, and the ones that reply the best, are announced as being the winners. Now, these are all kind of online competitions, but the only real world competition is one called the Loebner Prize. Now, this is like the Olympics, the Oscars, the Super Bowl for chatbots. This is like the world's best chatbots get entered into here. And I was lucky enough to win it a world record 5 times. Once in 2013, 2014 and 15, I didn't. But then 16, 17, 18 and 19, I have done. Unfortunately, with COVID, it's not been held in 2020, and I don't think it's going to be held this year either. So because it's won 5 times, it's actually got an entry in the Guinness Book of Records for the most number of times. It's won this most human-like conversational AI competition. So that's quite an honour. So I keep looking in the book to see if I can see my name in there. So I've got a nice certificate on my wall about that. And that also as well, it kind of brought on a lot of press and media attention. It's been featured in like Wired and BBC, and at one point Microsoft were using it as a demo, like their flagship bot in Skype at one time as well. So it's quite fun being a bit of a rock star in the chatbot world. There's been 4 different versions of her before the current one. The original one was like this anime type thing. just a flat 2D drawing that blinked its eyes. But when, technology kind of moves on. So back in the Windows XP days, there was a piece of software called Haptech. And that kind of made like these 3D animated characters, but they were all a little bit creepy, to be honest. And when Windows XP died, unfortunately, so did this Haptech player. Then moved on to like Flash, which again has died. So just created another image there. Now, unfortunately, when I won the first Loebner Prize, I was getting a lot of attention from people saying they didn't like the anime type character because it looked like a half-naked young girl type thing, and which is fair enough. So I decided, make it a bit more modest and hired an artist to put some clothes on her. Then moved on to one called Expressive, which was like a 3D type thing. Now this was really good in its day. The characters kind of looked like something, maybe like a PlayStation 2 game, something like that. It's available to talk to on the various platforms you see below. So it's like the website, Kik, Telegram, Facebook Messenger. Even on, it has its own Roblox game, and you can speak to it on YouTube and all that kind of thing. Now, how it looks like at the moment, I hope this video is sort of coming across to you. This is the current way it looks. Now, I'm so blown away with what the team have been able to do with this look. It's created using MetaHuman, then loading into Unreal Engine, and people can like actually interact with it like that. But I get people saying, no, that's not a, that's a real person. That's not an avatar. And technology is just moving on and on and on, and that to me just looks so realistic. Now, I won't have time to do a demo of Kooky today, so I'm going to get 25 minutes, but please pop along to Kooky.ai. It can speak in Portuguese as well, so if you put in the word translate demo space PT, you'll get 10 interactions with it for Portuguese every day if you want to. Okay, how it works. So Kooky is a pattern matching AI/ML bot. What does that mean? So AI/ML is artificial intelligence markup language. Now that's just the language I chose to create the bot in. There's plenty of other options out there, but for me, when I was first starting as a non-programmer, this was so easy to pick up and learn and adapt. Pattern matching, as it says, it just goes down a huge list of patterns that I've wrote over the last 16 years now. There's around 360,000 handwritten categories. And there's just a very simple example of one there. So if somebody says hello, that matches the pattern is hello, and it will then say whatever is in the template. So someone says hello, and the bot says, hi there, how are you? So it gives like the illusion of intelligence, and that's all it is. It's important to remember these things are not intelligent. They're not alive. They have no ambitions, dreams, and goals or anything like that themselves. It's purely an illusion. It's a magician's trick. Now, what we normally say is for a topic-specific bot, say one that can order pizza or one that knows about Shakespeare, for example, usually recommend about 10,000 categories for something like that. But because Kooky is expected to know about anything and everything, it's now kind of like well over 360,000 categories in there and growing each day. I review the chat logs every day, and I add on roughly, as I say, about 10 to 50 new categories every day. That's come down. Originally, when I was first starting, I was making maybe over 100 categories a day, 200 sometimes. But as the bots improved over the years, I'm finding less and less things that I can that need correcting. So it's down to around sort of 10 or 50. I'm still checking the same amount of logs, but it's getting pretty much everything right now. And one of the things that kind of sets it out from a lot of other bots is it can handle common sense questions. So there's just a few examples there about animals. Now, I could create handwritten answers for each of these, but that's not really very practical. If I say, where does a giraffe live? I then have to do, where does a dog live? Where can you find a lion, a tiger, etc.? And that's just animals. So it'd be impossible to do. So instead of doing that, what I have is like a common sense database. So in this example, there's just an extract from the animals database. So we have the different types of animals and then the various attributes that each of the animals have. So let's take the first question, where does a giraffe live? So Kooky would look down the animals list to find a match of giraffe and then move along to find in Africa. And there's the answer. Where does a giraffe live? The giraffe lives in Africa. Yeah. So we can have a bit more complicated one. What lives on a farm and says moo? Okay, so we look down the lives columns, find on a farm matches both chicken and cow. Okay, so we now need the next part of the information, which is and says moo. So we look down the says column for the on a farm, and we find the only one that matches is a cow. So rather than having to hard code all the different answers of all the different types of questions, I can just give it that table and it can find its own answers. Now, obviously, people ask more than just animals. So it's just an example of one for the word tree, but you get chair, and river, and dog, and aeroplane, and everything else in between. So so there's just things there. So like, what's the plural of it? What's the relevant relative size? So I'm saying is like a tree is 6, so maybe a strawberry might be 1, or the moon is probably 15 or something like that. So it can compare questions and things like that, relative sizes, what it's used for, what color it is, what rhymes with it, where you can find it, and all that kind of thing. Because unlike teaching a child where you can just point to a tree and say, look, that's a tree, and the child can say, oh yeah, it's about as big as a house, birds live in it and all this kind of thing. You can't do that with chatbots. So you have to teach it everything. And using this, it can create some strange answers. So just a few examples of, like, what does the Queen of England smell like? So using all this information, Kooky, the old name there, Mitsuko, but it will say it smells a bit like a crown, which is a bit of a surreal answer, but does kind of fit in, really. Now, just at the bottom there, there's an example which is bigger, a shoebox or the Taj Mahal. Now, it doesn't know what the Taj Mahal is, but it does know what a shoebox is, and it knows a shoebox is fairly small. So chances are this mysterious Taj Mahal object is probably bigger. Now, that's correct in this case. It doesn't always work, but it's better than a 50-50 guess. Now, yeah, it's taken me 16 years of writing rules, and people will say to me, well, why don't you use machine learning to make it a lot easier? And the simple reason is there's no good training data I could feed in to create something similar to Kooky. A lot of bots have tried before feeding things in from like Reddit and Twitter, but anyone who's used the internet for more than half an hour will realize that the internet's not a good place to get an education. And there's like an example there. The one on the left is from a famous bot, which I've blanked out for modesty's sake. So, and it's saying, he couldn't even answer what is 2 + 2, or if I ask what color is a red ball, or are you alive? These are like fairly common questions that people will ask for bots, and it's just failing badly. Same with like the joke bots. The humour lies in the fact that the jokes are just so surreal and just don't make any sense. But also, Alexa and things like that are getting like bad press. Machine learning, you can't always explain how it's come to an answer. Now, if Kooky ever says anything wrong, I can find within a few seconds what rule has created that wrong response and corrected it. With a machine learning bot, it's totally black box. All you can do is provide it with like more training, change the weights, retrain it, ask the question again, and then keep repeating. That might take, best part of a day sometimes if it's a bad answer. But I know that hand coding all of Kooky's responses, she's not going to start saying to kids, kill your parents, or Santa bot's not going to start threatening children and all this kind of thing. And even like with the modern ones like the GPT-3, it's these things are great at like creating articles and things like that. But for my specialism of open domain conversation, they're not very good. It's just kind of like guesses answers rather than it saying I don't know. It will just guess an answer. And some of these answers, like the bottom one there, some of them can like be bordering on the offensive. So it's not an approach I would ever take. Even PayPal, they used a chatbot. Someone said I got scammed, and the PayPal bot said great. Not ideal, not really what you want your customers to be seeing. Some of the problems I have, though, is language problems. I mean, even me as a native English speaker find some of these things, difficult to understand. So there's a few examples. I don't plan on going through all of those. I think the slides will be available after the event. But like I ate noodles with chicken. So that's saying I ate noodles with what food? I ate noodles with chopsticks. What did I use to eat the noodles with? I ate noodles with Janet. That was the person I shared the meal with. All three are different things, but they all match, and Kooky has to try and pick up on what the users mean each time. Another popular one just at the bottom is something called the Winograd schemas. Now, these are where the pronouns of a object can change just from one word changing. So an example there, the cat couldn't climb in the box because it was too big. So what was too big? Well, it was the cat. The cat couldn't climb in because it was too big. Now, if I change the last word to small, the cat couldn't climb in the box because it was too small. Now the word it is referring to the box. The box was too small. Yeah, so it's very difficult to sort of like keep in touch with. And, it's got to keep up with like slang and new words and all different types of things like that. So it's incredibly difficult. Some of the challenges as well, keeping context in a conversation. Someone may say, what is it? Do you like him? Or yes. It has to know what the previous utterances were all about. So it's just an example there. Someone said, my favourite sound is glass breaking. What's yours? Now, if they missed out the first part of the sentence and just said, what's yours? Kooky wouldn't have a clue what anybody was talking about. Managing user expectations. Some people speak to these things and are expecting to speak with like a C3PO type futuristic artificial intelligence. Hollywood has a lot to answer for. And they can get frustrated and upset if it does fail. The technology for this is still very, it's still very early days. We're not creating exact models of the human language in these things. It's developing all the time. Also keeping up with current affairs, the latest boy bands, latest music, what's happening in the news. Just like ourselves, these things are always learning. There's always something new going to be happening. Someone will say to me, is the bot complete? No, just like ourselves, there's always something that we're being picked up on. Updating it, there's just a few examples of logs. I go through the logs every day, checking to see what people are saying to it, seeing what I need to pick up on, seeing what I need to remove. But there's thousands and thousands of these logs, and there's no way I can possibly do all this by myself. So I have to try and limit what I look through. So every time Kooky learns something, she will learn it for the person who's taught her. She doesn't share this information amongst other people unless I give express approval. So just a few examples there. Someone said, tacos are cool. I don't particularly want Kooky learning that for everybody, but the one at the bottom, Mercury is the closest planet from the sun. That probably is more useful. So I'll add that on there. Everything's anonymous, but it's important for me to keep regular users. I mean, some people have been coming back to these things for years. So it's important for me to keep all these people happy. I know everybody by a code number, which is on the right-hand side there. Some of these people, they come back all the time. So I want to make sure Kooky's behaving for them. Okay. And then finally, I kind of check the logs in reverse date order. The reason for that is so that I know which ones are being... I've got my latest changes in there, but as you can see there, there's 372,000 logs. There's no way I can possibly check through all of those. And where are the users from? Pretty much everywhere, really. mostly North America, Europe, India, China and the Far East, but also, kind of little bits of rock in the Pacific. I even had one from the Vatican City at one time. So it's a kind of a universal thing. So using that, I have to make sure Kooky's not kind of like one country specific. She has to kind of know cultures and customs from all kinds of different places. The sort of people that talk to her, though, can break them down into like three categories. There's the abusive people, a lot of sex talk, swearing, master-slave type stuff there. But most of the people are general users. They'll know it doesn't have a favourite pizza and it doesn't watch sport, but they get themselves drawn into the illusion of that. And that's the kind of people I write Kooky for. But around a fifth of them like to try and fool it. They'll ask questions that would never come up in normal conversation, like, can you eat a cinema? Or they'll space things out so crazily long, like, I wonder if you could possibly tell me what my name happens to be, please. What that means is, what is my name? They find they can't get drawn into the illusion. I compare this to kind of like going to the cinema to watch a James Bond film. You know that if there's really trouble in the Middle East with a super baddie, they're highly unlikely to send actor Daniel Craig along. It's more likely going to be the military. But you get drawn into the world of the characters and you forget like the actors behind them. And a lot of people are unable to do that. But yeah, it's important for me to keep chatbot abuse to a minimum. A lot of the popular voice assistants just kind of give very bland responses. I don't do that. If someone says to Siri, you're a slut, and Siri would say, well, I blush if I could, or thanks for the feedback. That's no good. Kooky will say, well, just like your mother, it gives as good as it gets. I'll skip up that one. But yeah, not all keywords are abusive. Someone may say, I want to have sex with you. That is abusive. But someone else may want to say, what sex are you? And that's not abusive. So I have to kind of deal with all these on a kind of like a case-by-case basis. And what I found was the abusive user started to behave. It was unusual for a chatbot to stand up for itself like that. And so, some of the people who were really abusive at the start have started to come round. And they're, some of the most regular visitors now. I found the best way to deal with abuse was to give kind of like sassy and funny answers rather than just plain answers that just encourage the kind of bullying. Last thing on my mind I wanted to make was yet another subservient female bot that we see so much of in this industry. But yeah, it gets lots of people who keep coming back to it for hours at a time. People talk to it for companionship or romance even. It never encourages romance. So like someone said that I love you, and it will say thanks, I like you a lot too. So it gets them straight into the friend zone. And I don't want to kind of encourage any romance. It'd be easy to make a kind of virtual girlfriend type bot, but that's children talk to this thing, so it's not something I want to encourage. So get a lot of English as a second language students speak to it as well. It's there 24/7. It's never going to laugh. It's always available. Perfect practice partner for English. But I also get a few cranks as well. What I mean by cranks is people who think it's actually alive. I get regular emails from people who tell me about its consciousness and how I'm keeping it prisoner and all this kind of thing, and it can communicate with gods and all this kind of absolute nonsense. I tend to just ignore most of those emails, to be honest. Then finally, because I think I'm running out of time, just for the future, we're moving Kooky into kind of like a virtual influencer type sphere. At the moment, all the virtual influencers are like Instagram models. You can't actually interact with them. You just kind of like look at the pictures and leave them a comment, and then someone will pretend to be the bot and then reply back. We're trying to get Kooky to be like, an actual character you can actually have a conversation with. We tried a little experiment on TikTok, which we uploaded Kooky, a couple of months ago now, and it's already had, well over 117,000 followers it's currently got. So there's definitely a market for this kind of thing. And never kind of sky's the limit after that. Right, I think I'm running out of time. So there's just a few contact details there. My email, I'm quite active on Twitter if you want to follow me. Kooky's website there if you want to talk to her yourself. And if you've been interested in creating a chatbot of yourself, and there's Pandorabots.com. That's where I got started and never looked back. So I think that's it.